The heartbreaking life and death of Irene Ryan, Granny Clampett from the Beverly Hillbillies. I always thought Irene Ryan had one of the happiest faces on television. Then I started reading about her real life. The woman who made millions laugh as Granny Clampett spent decades fighting poverty, loneliness, and heartbreak, and in the end, she left the world far more quietly than anyone expected. Whenever an old episode of the Beverly Hillbillies comes on, it's almost impossible not to smile. Granny storms across the room. She rattles off one sharp comeback after another. She looks fearless, completely unstoppable. But what surprised me most was learning that the actress behind Granny wasn't naturally an old woman at all. In fact, when the show began, Irene Ryan was only in her late 50s. That's younger than many people imagine. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, every bit of that unforgettable look had to be created every single morning. Hours in the makeup chair, day after day, for 9 seasons, and somehow she never complained. The strange thing is, success came incredibly late. Today we assume television stars become famous in their 20s or 30s. That wasn't Irene's story. She spent nearly 40 years chasing a dream before the world finally noticed her. 40 years. Can you imagine believing in yourself for that long? I honestly don't know if I could. Long before Hollywood knew her name, Irene was just a little girl growing up in a struggling family. She was born in El Paso, Texas, in 1902. Her father served in the military. The family moved constantly. Nothing stayed the same for very long. After her father died, everything became even more uncertain. Money was tight. Opportunities were scarce. Entertainment didn't seem like a realistic future. Yet somehow, the stage kept calling her. When Irene was only 11 years old, she entered a local talent contest. She sang one simple song. She won. The prize wasn't enormous, just a few dollars. But for her family, it meant something. More importantly, it gave Irene a feeling she would spend the rest of her life chasing. The applause. Sometimes one small moment changes everything. Her mother wasn't thrilled. Quite the opposite. She warned Irene that theaters were dangerous places. She even told her that if she ever met the devil, she'd probably meet him backstage. Imagine hearing that as a child. Most kids would have walked away. Irene didn't. She became even more determined. As a teenager, she made an incredibly risky decision. She lied about her age. California law wouldn't allow someone so young to perform professionally, so Irene simply claimed she was older. Looking back, it's easy to judge, but I also understand her desperation. She wasn't chasing celebrity. She was trying to escape poverty. Sometimes survival forces impossible choices. Those early years were brutal. Vaudeville wasn't glamorous. If audiences didn't like your act, they let you know immediately. Performers were booed, humiliated, sometimes even pelted with food. That kind of environment either destroys you or teaches you resilience. For Irene, it became the greatest acting school she ever attended. She learned timing, improvisation, and perhaps most importantly, how to make people laugh even when life wasn't funny. She eventually married fellow comedian Tim Ryan. Together they became a successful comedy team. For a while, everything looked promising. They toured, made short films, appeared on radio. People assumed they were happily married. The truth was much more complicated. Their marriage quietly fell apart. Yet they kept performing together anyway. Why? Because separating publicly meant risking their careers. I've always found that heartbreaking. Night after night, making audiences laugh, while pretending your own life wasn't falling apart. Years passed. Hollywood offered Irene little more than tiny supporting roles. She played maids, neighbors, background characters. Sometimes she wasn't even credited. Think about that. Decades of experience, and almost nobody knew who she was. Many actors would have given up. She didn't. Then everything changed almost overnight. In 1962, she fought for an audition that almost never happened. CBS executives reportedly thought she looked too young to play Granny. Too energetic, too lively. Instead of accepting rejection, Irene marched directly to creator Paul Henning. She practically challenged him. "Give me a screen test. Let me prove it." I absolutely love that story. Confidence doesn't always arrive when you're young. Sometimes it arrives after 40 years of being underestimated. She won the role. The rest became television history. The Beverly Hillbillies exploded into one of America's biggest shows. Suddenly, Irene Ryan wasn't just another working actress. She was Granny Clampett. Everywhere she went, people expected her to speak exactly like the character. Some even forgot her real name. It's funny, until you realize how painful that must have been. Imagine spending your entire career becoming versatile, only to have the world remember one role. Behind the scenes, though, the work became increasingly difficult. Granny looked elderly. Irene wasn't. That meant she had to throw herself into demanding physical comedy every single week. Running, stomping, falling, carrying heavy props. Even as she entered her late 60s,